Okay, I got him.
Okay.
I told him.
Good evening and welcome to the Roundup. I'm David Iverson, and we finally were able to get a program in. It's been a few days. Just things during a budget session, they're absolutely bonkers, and there's a lot of times you're in the Capitol building until really late, and so it's pretty difficult to schedule something. But there's been a lot going on. Probably way more than I can catch you up on tonight, but we're going to try. And joining me tonight is Senator Sherry Steinmetz. Sherry, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good to be with you tonight.
Well, all right. So you've been, hold on just a second. All right. Yeah, we're good on the sound. All right. So you have had quite the time in the Senate.
The Senate has been crazy this year. We have had a lot going on between the budget debates and going back to the governor's recommendation to all of the bills that have been sent over from the House that are dying on our floor. So it's been quite a grueling session.
Well, and I think for both the House and the Senate, I mean, usually, and the narrative is in the Capitol building that all the drama happens in the House. And okay, so this year there was quite a bit of drama
There was.
in the House.
There
We'll
was.
admit that. But there has also been a lot of different stuff happening in the Senate, and I want to talk to you about that
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
because, well, it's not necessarily the deliberative body that we all think that it ought to be. Let's start with I guess it was last night, was the last night for Committee of the Whole.
That's right.
And we were sitting over in the House just watching how many bills were going to die, and there were a lot of really
There
important
were a
ones.
lot. Yeah. Yeah.
So, why don't you talk to me about? I mean, what was going on? Why didn't we talk about the parental rights bill or the House Bill 10 or any of those?
Well, we've seen a lot of tactics going on this year, and it's not unusual, but it was difficult to be a part of this year because we've been going in later in the morning. We've been taking extended lunch hours, just dragging our feet. And yesterday was very bizarre because we said we would take a break and be back at 4:30. Then
That didn't happen.
no, it didn't happen. It was a quarter to six, closer to 6 o'clock, and they were just slowing everything down. And come to find out, what they were waiting for was the Senate President's energy dominance bill to be the top of the list on committee of the whole. And so that's what they were waiting for, and they were slowing things down to get some special bills of their own up the list so that then they would go back to the House bills that had been sent over, and they were, pornography in libraries, parental rights, some more gun legislation, Second Amendment protections for our citizens, things that the people really wanted to see happen, and things that we were looking forward to debating and making sure that we got past this session.
Okay, so let's talk about a few of these bills in particular. And now I don't know if you were on the committee for any of them, but
I was not. I was not on any of the committees for them. I'm on labor, health, and corporations. So there was an election bill that died, and that was the
just
hand
one.
recount. Well, several election bills died, but as far as yesterday, it was the hand recount bill.
Now, let's talk about some of the election bills since that's your committee. Just the impression that I got is that anything that was really election integrity related was doomed in the Senate. Why is that?
I'm not sure. There were some that came out of management audit, and there were a couple that they couldn't explain very well. Those died, and I think there was some consternation that it didn't come through the corporations committee, but they had the special subcommittee that I wish we could have been a part of. I would have liked to know more about what was going on. I don't think those are dead by any means, but for this session they are. So, and when you have a chairman that is less inclined toward that direction.
Man, that's charitable talking about that chairman, man. Come on.
Well,
I know you got to be careful.
I have to. I'm trying to maintain the,
The
The
integrity of the Senate.
No, the integrity of the office I hold for the citizens. I don't work for the Senate. I work for the citizens of my district and of the state. When you're serving on a committee, you're working for the state as a whole. And so those are the people I hold in high esteem and the ones that I want to maintain my honor for.
Well, let's talk about one of those election integrity bills in specifics. And I don't remember the actual bill number, but it was the Weston County bill. The
There
one
were
that
several of those.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of would have increased penalties on defying a legislative subpoena.
Oh, yeah.
Because that, I mean, that's very clearly
Yeah.
Becky Hadlock
Yep.
in
Yep.
Weston County.
Yep.
So, was there any discussion surrounding that, or?
I don't think that came up to the floor for debate. It died on committee of the whole as well. Several committee bills did. So,
Okay, well, let's see here. A lot of these, what I want to talk about, didn't really come up on the floor. But just sitting over in the House, like House Bill 10 is a good
yes,
example. We
yeah.
can talk about that because you guys tried to resurrect it today.
Yes, we did try to resurrect that.
But that one, I mean, there was a lot of work that went into that bill, both in committee and on the floor of the House. And it just like the impression I got is, the Senate is the place where House bills go to die. That was the joke this year.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That
what
that can
happened with
happen.
House Bill 10?
Well, I think there were five more amendments on it, but I talked to the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Jared Olson, and he thought they had it in pretty good shape. There were a few tweaks to make on the floor, and it's just baffling to me that we would not be wanting to protect our children from pornography in libraries. That's a no-brainer.
Well, and we ran an article about that a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't know it at the time, but the Open Range Record is the only media outlet, except for the Cowboy State Daily, a couple of years ago, that actually published the pictures that are in this book, in some of these books.
Uh-huh.
So, what was what was the resistance to them? Do you know, or was there any conversation?
There was no conversation. It seems we can have a caucus on several other items, but not how our floor is being managed. Not so the as you know, the majority floor leader for our listeners is the one who controls the bills. So that would be Tara Nethercutt. So when they're introduced, the president of the Senate has the authority to send a bill to whatever committee, but when they come back out of committee, then that's the majority floor leader. She also decides when we adjourn, when we begin, when she calls us back from lunch, when we caucus, all of those things. So she runs the floor schedule. So the only thing that I can speculate as she didn't see those bills as priority bills.
Well, and if you thinking back to last year, a lot of the more important bills, or I should say, a lot of the bills that got a lot of attention in the House, they seem to be put way down on the schedule, and a lot of them, well, last year too,
Yeah.
died. And I think one of them actually was a similar bill to House Bill 10.
I think it was. Yeah, I think we've been trying. And, the first year we started dealing with this, I had just a repeal of the obscenity statutes that pertain to librarians and teachers because they are exempted from obscenity statutes. So if you or I gave something obscene to someone, then we would be held accountable, but librarians and teachers are not. And so we had talked about early on trying to run the repealer too, because in the Senate you can only have three bills during a budget session. In the House, I think it's seven. And so we have to be very selective of what bills we run. But a repealer doesn't count against your bill total. So I had thought someone would run that, but I probably should have done it again.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point too, because a lot of the laws that we have, and obscenity is definitely one of them. They were written during a time when we didn't have, porn books in the
Yeah,
children's section of
yeah,
the library.
yeah.
I mean,
It was unthinkable.
right.
It
It's
was
just
absolutely unthinkable.
it's not something that we would have thought of,
Yeah.
and and maybe it's analogous to some of the like the information technology laws that we have that were written before the internet is what it is. And politics is always, government and politics are always downstream from culture.
Right.
And so we're always
Trying to
playing
catch
catch
up.
up.
Yeah. Which is okay. The wheels of government should turn slowly
Well, they did
so
this
that,
year.
yeah. Not in some of these areas, though. I mean, our foremost tasks are to protect life, liberty, and property. And that is, bringing up life, the heartbeat bill did pass third reading today,
That's a great
which
victory
is
there.
excellent. Yeah, that's a great victory. And those are more of the bills that I see and study more. I was able to put a trigger provision on that because what we found in studying for these bills to come up is when the Supreme Court struck down the Life is a Human Right Act, they struck down every provision we had on
Everything.
abortion, everything, because we had repealed it. But I thought that repealer would go away with the bill, and it didn't.
Mm-mm.
And so we have nothing. I mean, we're just abortion till the day of birth, and it's absolutely so. What we put in this bill is a trigger. So if it is found unconstitutional or enjoined, then the floor of viability goes back in, and the laws that we had in 2022 take effect.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for people that are not involved in the session, like day in and day out, to really get a grasp of where we're at with our abortion laws. But the reality is that Wyoming right now is pretty well on par with North Korea, and
Absolutely.
that's not an exaggeration.
That's not an exaggeration at all, and it's heartbreaking. And we also had another bill that died on general file yesterday, which was Martha Lawley's bill, and it was about informed consent for abortions. That's something that they've under Roe v. Wade, they waived that for abortion centers. So any
So,
other procedure you have, a shoulder replacement or something, there are specific laws for informed consent, but not so with
so what do you
abortions.
mean by, maybe for some of our viewers that don't know what informed consent is? Could you explain that a little bit as it relates to the abortion laws?
Absolutely. So if you go in for a surgery on your knee, they tell you all of the things that could happen and have you sign a paper and saying that you've gotten all the information you understand. As far as abortions, women are not getting all of the information about what it would be like to carry to term, what the risks are to their fertility for an abortion, just all the various risks with the medication, because a lot of the abortions nowadays really are from abortion-inducing drugs.
Yeah, and I read a statistic somewhere that something like 90% of abortions are done by drugs, and some of those, are sadly available online. I mean, that
Yeah,
scares the
they
crap
are.
out of me.
It's awful. And we looked at trying to touch that this year, and we had a bill that passed and that also was struck down. And so the Supreme Court really did a number on our all of the bills that we had passed and had such broad base of support all across the state of Wyoming. So we're always dealing with that. I had a bill to change how Supreme Court justices were nominated.
Oh, please.
And it actually passed. It would have passed with a majority vote out of the Senate, but it couldn't make the two-thirds introduction.
Ugh.
And so yeah, it was interesting. So we've had an interesting year.
So let's kind of switch gears a little bit here, and we hear the word transparency a lot. Like
Yeah, we do.
that's everybody's favorite word.
Yeah,
Lots of bills. We have to increase the transparency.
yeah.
But it seems to me that when transparency is, well, I guess before we even get into it, what does transparency mean to you, Sherry?
To me, it means that the public has access to what we're doing, how we're debating. They have full access. And I know we have caucus positions we have to take, which,
Sure.
by the way, in the Senate, we don't have a Republican caucus anymore. We just have an all of Senate caucus, which
Which
is odd. I've never served in a situation like that, but because usually we, as Republicans, we'd like to take a Republican position, but that's not happening anymore. So to me, I just feel like the public deserves to know we're here representing them. We're here being paid by them. We're here to do their business because we're listening to them. That's where the bills come from. A lot of them are the
most of them.
grassroots. Yeah, there are committee bills that agencies bring us and cleanup bills like the reviser's bill that
Yeah,
we
let's
heard
talk
Mike
about that.
Garou talk about for every page of the reviser's bill is just to clean up Scribner's errors or make conforming amendments. It's just a really dry bill. It's usually done in 5 minutes. I think it took half an hour. He read all 44 pages yesterday. So that's a filibuster tactic, and they're trying to slow things down when they do that.
Well, and I guess I should have mentioned this when we were talking about the Senate President's Dennis's energy bill. Because let
Yeah.
me tell you what happened in the House.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So with that bill, there was a motion to, and I don't know where the bill was in the list. It wouldn't have really mattered because the House had decided early that they were going to debate every bill.
Yeah, yeah.
That nothing was going to die in the House.
Well, kudos to them. I'm so proud of them for getting all of that work done, and they have worked very hard
Yes.
this year, especially with adding on the investigation and all of that, and
Yeah,
all of
we'll
the
get to that in just a
controversy.
little bit.
Yeah, but they've done a great job.
I think so. And, I mean, there's been a lot of drama too.
Yeah,
And there was drama surrounding Dennis's energy bill.
yeah.
So what happened is it was somewhere down in the list, and like I
Uh-huh.
say, it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because they debated every bill. And by the way, I guess we should explain that. So in the legislature, there are time limits for when you have to do things.
Yeah.
And so last night was the last night for bills to be out of first reading. It's called
Right.
Committee of the
Committee of
Whole.
the whole, first reading.
So if it didn't get a hearing last night, it's dead.
It's dead. Yep.
So the energy bill,
Yeah.
first thing when they hit Committee of the Whole, there was a motion to move it to the top of the list.
I heard about that. Yeah.
And then after they debated the bill, it passed, by the way, yet another slush fund. But it passed, and then the people that brought the motion disappeared, and they did not return for the rest of the session.
That's what I heard. I heard there was a basketball game.
Yes, there was a basketball game over in Laramie, and while I do have it confirmed that at least that's where a couple of them went, I don't have video or pictures or
Yeah, I don't
anything
know. It was
yet.
just a rumor floating around the Capitol.
Yeah, in the House, it was not a rumor because
Yeah.
they admitted it.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
think about this. So a couple of elected representatives decide they want to go to a basketball game. And so they just leave the floor and they didn't vote on, I don't know how many bills they went through last night, but it was 10, 12. It was a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And so, if your representative is, and I wouldn't want to mention any names, Cody Wiley or JT Larson, or Andrew Byron,
Yeah.
wouldn't want to mention his name either. But if you live in their districts, they did not represent you last night. In fact, they went to UW.
Yeah.
All right, so
Well, they could have been in the office eating pizza, waiting for their bill to come to the top of the list.
they could have been doing that. This is true. So let's talk about that. You took a picture yesterday.
I did.
So walk us through what happened.
It's so shocking to me. First, I'd like to qualify that it is so controversial because we were just on our break, waiting, sitting around.
For over an hour and a half.
Yeah, yeah. And getting close to 6 o'clock, obviously. So I was wandering about. I don't even remember what time it was exactly, but it was on that break. And I saw a bunch of people in the Senate president's office. So I went in and they were eating pizza and whatever else they were doing, shooting the breeze probably.
Right.
And I said, "Oh, could I take your picture for posterity?" And they said, "Sure." And some of them smiled and posed, and so I took their picture. I said, "I'll send it to you." And I popped back out of the office. I think the Senate president was eating a bite of pizza. Well,
Stuffing his face, yes.
yeah, so as the night went on, I was sitting there thinking, wow, I wonder if we're going to get our bills out. I mean, a lot of us were wondering that. So I just popped in a Facebook post and said, Senate leadership's having a pizza party, and I sure hope we get our bills out. Something benign like
Yeah,
that.
it wasn't
It
accusatory.
wasn't, no, it wasn't at all. And they had posed for the picture. The door was
They were
open.
smiling.
So basically, your expectation of privacy is a little bit gone when you have the door open and you're gavelled out and you're walking, you're waiting for the sound of the gavel. Everybody's walking around. Plus, they had, other folks in there too that are a part of their team of people. And
We'll
so
talk about that in a minute.
I did this at this post, and it seems to have taken on a life of its own. And of course, I did a small video talking about how many bills died and how disappointed I was that evening. But yeah, it seems to have taken on a life of its own. People across the state have been very concerned about how things were managed. And, you know, I just think people deserve to know what's going on in our chambers and in between breaks. And
No, I think that you were absolutely right to take that picture, and you can tell from it they're smiling, right?
yeah.
They're happy that you took the picture, and you did tell them that you would send it to them, though you did not tell them you would send it to them on Facebook.
No, I didn't. I didn't say anything
But they
about
got it.
posting it. Yeah, they did. I sent it to the vice president via text as well. But it wasn't anything ill intent. I figure people have a right to know what's going on in the Senate, and the Senate chambers, and what we're up to when we're doing their business.
Well, I think part of the frustration of, and the response that I've seen both to your post and the article that we ran on a different topic, but we'll get to that in just a
Yeah.
second. But the response that I've seen is very similar to the articles that we've run on this check incident.
Yeah.
To sum it all up is people are tired of the bull crap and they just want our legislature to get to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it
Well, and making that comment too, I mean, why is it okay for Carly Provenza to take a picture of that? And I'm in trouble I've heard I'm in trouble. Senate leadership has not spoken with me, but apparently they're very upset with me and for that picture. And I'm unclear as to what would be the problem with that picture.
Well, it's that they were exposed. And I think a lot of it has to do also with what that picture led to. And if you haven't seen the picture that we're talking about, it's on the Open Range record right now. We did an article about the people that are in that picture. You can also go to Sherry's Facebook page and see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's all. I think over 12,000 people have seen it now, which is shocking to me.
You
But
went viral.
I, I'm not used to that. But it just was, I guess, people something they're interested in, that what is going on in the Senate, and especially when you're having that kind of a day at the Senate, and then
You're so
people are
diplomatic.
they're in the office, they're eating pizza, and the bills are dying. It's not a good look for the Senate.
All right, so the article that we ran is a little bit different take. I don't really care if people eat pizza. I do care if you are an elected legislator and there are people that are in your office and that have been on the floor that shouldn't be there. And one of
Yeah.
those is Apollo Pazell.
Yeah.
Apollo Pazell is a registered lobbyist, and there are several photographs of him in the Senate chamber where lobbyists are not allowed to be.
Yeah.
And I do have, and I at the time, I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't include his lobbyist form in the article, but
Oh,
I do
yeah.
have it, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna update the article.
So I had no idea he was a lobbyist.
Oh yeah,
I had no idea because he's in the Senate chamber all the time. He's in the president's office all the time. He's all about the chamber.
and I think that that raises a lot more questions because the rules that you guys operate under, and by the way, there are rules for just about everything. I mean,
Yeah.
if you
I'm
can think
hearing
about
there
it,
could be rules for pictures
yeah. Well, it's too bad that,
in the future.
and that brings up another point too,
I mean,
that the Senate, not you, but the Senate has tried, in my opinion, to operate outside of the purview of the press. And again, in Wyoming, we don't have a responsible press. In fact, they kind of work on behalf of liberal politicians. But so the Senate rules are very clear. about lobbyists. They can't even, and let's describe for me how you walk into the Senate chamber.
Right.
Like
So,
the rooms, describe that for me.
yeah, and the rules are very clear about lobbyists, but if we don't know someone is a lobbyist, because I have not seen a lobbyist badge or anything
I'm sure not.
on the person in question. But so, for example, we have swinging doors and we have doormen that let people in and out of the chamber. Now, for example, when we're on a break, those doors are open and people can come in escorted by senators or even representatives can come in and they might have someone with them too. But the rules are very clear about lobbyists. And especially, a lobbyist may come in, but they need to not have their badge on. They need to be with the legislator all of the time. They shouldn't just be wandering about and have free reign of the place.
Yeah, so just to describe it a little bit further, there is what we call ambush alley.
Right.
Ambush
Yeah.
alley is the foyer that's outside of the
Right.
chamber,
Right.
and as you
In front
mentioned,
of the doors, the
yes,
swinging doors. And then, right, you come into the doors and there's another area and there's a glass panel and that separates the floor from, the behind the bar is what they call
yeah,
it. And that's where there's a little bench back there. I think you had a picture of the person in question on the
yes.
bench sitting back there while we were debating. That is really unheard of. I mean, my husband can come in and sit there. Usually I sit with him. It's reserved for people, family members, distinguished guests, maybe former legislators. The governor might sit there, people like that.
Now the other group that is allowed behind the bar, not on the floor, but behind the bar. So you walk in the doors, and there's this little breezeway, I guess is a way to
Yeah.
put it.
Uh-huh.
Members of the press can be there,
Yeah.
but not lobbyists.
No, not lobbyists.
And there's a big reason for that because a lot of lobbyists, they donate to campaigns.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want a group that is applying undue pressure
Right.
on senators. And to think about it this way. So your desk is your office,
Absolutely it is.
okay? And in the middle of the session, you might look at it and it's papers piled
Yeah.
high. I mean, that's where you work.
Yeah, but you might have notes for personal effects
Sure.
there or I mean, they might
You might
see
leave your
something
phone
on your
sitting there.
phone. Yeah, I mean, you just don't know. And I think that is the point of the process is to protect from that kind of undue influence, which is, we'll get to that later, but which is why the housing mitigation fee bill, there's a lot more to that than just what a lot of people have heard in the press.
Certainly. So anyway, go check out the article on the Open Range Record.
Yeah.
You'll see it. It's a picture of a pizza party. Then it says Senate President allows lobbyist in
Yeah.
Senate chamber or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Something like
But it's
that.
totally wrong, and it's been happening the entire session.
Yep. Yep. Every day. Uh-huh.
And he's not the only one, and we're looking into some of the other people in that picture also.
Yeah.
There might be an interesting article coming out about that too.
Well, that will be, yeah. Well, and I'm just going to call it out right now. I think there's a real conflict in the fact that Joey Carenti was in that picture as well. And then he's bringing resolutions and doing all
To
of
the
these things
party,
with the Republican Party. And, there's a lot of overlap in a lot of ways. And when that person is being a regular in the Senate president's desk and then engaging in that kind of activity,
there's some big questions
there's
there.
some real questions there. But the picture is the problem.
Yeah,
The picture
it's
of
the
the
evidence
pizza
is the
party
problem.
is
It's
really
it's the lead pipe is
and
the
me
problem.
taking the picture is just that's I'm the problem.
Well, so just to round out the Apollo Pizzelle conversation, so I called him, and I was
He's
busy.
a nice fellow.
Oh, he was
He's
pleasant on
he's
the
very
phone.
pleasant, and he worked really hard to try to bring the library bill out House Bill 10. He did. So I give him credit for that.
Yeah. Well, when I was talking to him, my question was, as a registered lobbyist, how did you gain access to the Senate chamber? And he told me, and this is bizarre, but he told me, well, after I'm done lobbying, then I'm a Senate aide.
Oh,
Oh, you don't get to be both.
no, you don't.
Uh,
Or maybe you do.
No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Well, as and we'll get to this in a little bit, but as we've learned from the House, some rules we can follow, some we don't have to. And
Rules for thee and not for me.
yeah. So let's talk about House Bill 141.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that bill essentially it would have eliminated what are called housing mitigation fees.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if my business partner Rebecca were here, we would get an earful
Yep.
about it. But essentially what that is if you own a piece of property and you want to, and right now the big offender is Teton County, but if you want to build something on your property, like a mother-in-law building,
Yeah.
a little apartment, well, in Teton County, you have to pay an additional fee to be able to build on your own property. And we're not talking a small fee. We're talking tens of thousands, in some cases, way more.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
bill, and it's not Teton County alone that is
No,
trying to do
it's
this.
spreading. It's spreading
Yeah.
to Sheridan. In fact, we've seen some indications that here in Cheyenne they might
Yeah.
even be working on it. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a straight up property rights
Yep,
bill.
it is. It's a takings. It's
Yep.
absolutely a takings.
Now, and we should add too that there was a bill last year. It was Senate File 40
Yep.
that had an amendment added to it that would have done exactly the same
Yes.
thing.
And we had an agreement that this year that was not germane to the bill, the amendment, and so this year that we could have it in a bill form and it would fly through the legislature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this bill also has what I believe are some contrived connections to the check incident.
Yeah.
And so here's what happened over in the House. So on February 9th, and this is all, by the way, all the special committee's findings came out today too. So anyway, September 9th, Rebecca handed out some campaign checks on the floor of the House.
Yeah.
And we've covered this ad nauseum, so I
Yeah.
don't know that we necessarily have to go into it. And then 2 days later, so the 9th, the campaign donations were delivered. The 11th is when House Bill 141 came up, and immediately Mike Yin alleged that there was a connection between those campaign donations and House Bill 141. And from there, it just exploded in the media.
Yeah.
And so the bill actually passes the House, and I'm skipping a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
You have to. We'd be here all night.
we would, and we've already covered it way too
Yeah.
much.
Oh, yeah.
So it gets over to the Senate.
Yeah.
What happened?
It gets us assigned to the Appropriations Committee.
Which you're on.
No,
No, you're on corporations. That's right. Yeah.
corporations. Yeah. So that would be Tim Salazar's committee, the vice president of the Senate, and he is also a co-sponsor of the bill, which I am as well. And so in checking on that bill, it wasn't moving. So I went to meet with him Monday morning, and they did not want to bring it out of appropriations because they didn't believe they had the votes on the floor. And so I went and met with them, and they said that if we brought the bill out, we would all be under investigation.
What?
That, yeah, the bill is under investigation, that there's a,
That's insane.
yeah, and there's a prosecutor that is just foaming at the mouth to get at all of this, and that we were bringing the controversy into the Senate. I'm not telling you anything Bo Beitman didn't tell you when he, gave his fatherly speech on the floor of the Senate, because I was planning to pull the bill out. He found out about that, so he preempted me. I had a speech written. I wish I had it here because it was a pretty good one. I worked pretty hard on it, and but he preempted me, and so I gave my speech about private property rights. And actually, if you want to really look at it, in our Constitution, there's a provision that says we cannot be sued or even
Investigated, really.
investigated for our debate on the floor
Yeah.
and for bringing a matter before the body. So that's just wrong on its face. So actually, the coercion is not to bring it up. I mean,
Yes.
it's exactly the reverse of what they were saying is really the crime for the citizens of Wyoming and the property owners that are being affected by these housing mitigation fees and the ones that will be in the time that we're out of session. So it's really, that is the criminal, I mean, not criminal as in we're going to take you to jail, but it's the unfortunate part of it. And we have every protection to be able to debate an issue before the Senate without reprisal.
And to just explain that to you, so just about everything in government can be FOIA'd,
Yeah.
and it really there are very few limits, but there are a couple of
There's a
things.
few. The legislature is exempt from the
Yes.
Public Records Act and our emails in order to protect confidentiality of our constituents.
Yeah. So, if you're investigating a legislator for whatever reason, and you're, FOIAing a whole bunch of documents, and
Yeah.
you say, man, I think that their emails, that would be the gold mine. Well, you can't FOIA a legislator's
That's
emails,
right.
and,
Yeah.
and for good reason too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this whole idea that somehow you were bringing an investigation into the Senate, I mean, it's absurd on face.
Well, and that there was some kind of a blight on the bill and it would come to the Senate and we would have a mark against us. Well,
Curses aren't real, Sherry.
I know we took action right away to say, okay, we don't want, checks on the floor of the Senate. It was a unanimous thing. We changed our rules. We put out a statement. We did all of those things. So there was no reason. I mean, we weren't being influenced in any way.
No. And frankly, I think that Rebecca said it best in that investigative meeting. She said, I don't believe for a second that there's a single legislator that can be bought off for 1,500
No,
bucks.
no way.
And there's no way. And by the way, everything that happened is constitutionally protected free speech. All of it is.
Yeah.
Now, I've said from the very beginning of this entire thing, in fact, I wrote a piece to this effect, that I just don't think it looked good.
Yeah.
And here's why. Because most people already assume, rightly so, that politics is a dirty business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And campaigning is not dirty, raising money is not dirty. Those are
No.
normal things, but people just have this impression that politicians, and they see news pieces like Menendez, and not Menendez, who was the guy that had the gold bars from New York?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, there was a senator. Yeah, it was Bob Menendez. He was taking bribes,
Oh.
and when they searched his house, they found gold bars in his safe. And so, people see those news reports and
Yeah.
they just assume that all politicians are that way. They're not. Almost all the people that I know down here are good people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the ones that I disagree
Yeah,
with
there's a lot of, I think they have good
vehemently.
intentions. But that's why our state is so special because we have the ability to really know the people that we
Absolutely.
represent. We don't have staff, so we are the ones interacting with our citizens and they know us and hopefully they know whether we're trustworthy or not. And because as for example, my community, my grandkids are the sixth generation of our family there.
Sure.
Some people in our community know me better than I know myself. They've known me a long, long time. So I think that is something really special about Wyoming.
Certainly. And I think that it really strikes to the core when there is a controversy of any kind
Yeah.
down here. And admittedly, things that happen in the Capitol building get magnified
Yeah.
about tenfold. And while sitting at home, you may not think that that's a big deal. Here, I mean, it becomes front page news and
does.
it just
But
explodes.
in about 3 weeks after we go home, nobody really remembers a
No.
lot. I mean, there might be some things, and for example, the news, when they report on something, they'll create an adjective to go with someone's name. I remember the first time I ran for office, I I didn't prevail. And so they would always say, Sherry Steinmetz, failed Senate
Yeah,
candidate. And you're just so, but otherwise things kind of go away pretty
sure.
quickly.
And so let's talk about, and I want to get your perspective on it because the special committee came out with their findings tonight.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what those are.
And so essentially, they said that no laws were broken. Yeah, we knew that.
Okay.
No rules were broken.
Yeah.
Yep, we told you that
Well,
too.
you had to know that because we didn't have a rule till we adopted it afterward. I mean,
Exactly.
that's just,
It's just dumb. And basically, what they
uh,
said is we need to take some steps to prevent this from happening in the future. And then Art Washit read this long-winded condemnation about what happened, and it was all his opinion.
okay.
But really, the long and the short of it is, okay, we don't want this to happen again. But
Okay.
what they didn't do is say, Art said, it's not our job to say whether these people are guilty or innocent.
I thought that's what it was about.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was about.
I mean, isn't that what an investigative committee is for? Because the legislature police is supposed to police their own.
Yes,
So, and they want to send me home early or censure me or whatever for posting a picture on
picture,
Facebook.
picture on Facebook.
And
And just think about, since you brought that up, I cannot stop it.
I,
All right, so how thin-skinned do you
I
have to be?
I know. I just think it's crazy.
Just insane. And the other thing
So,
that ticked me off tonight is after all of this thing that the media drummed up, and a lot of this check thing, most of this check thing, is the media conjuring things up,
yeah,
even making stuff up. And guess who the only member of the press was there tonight?
you.
Me.
Yeah.
Not a single one of
They
them were
might
there.
be watching online. They seem to do that.
Well, I'm okay, fine, but they didn't see what happened on the floor.
That's right.
They saw what happened at the podium.
It's just like attending a meeting via Zoom or being there in person.
Hmm.
There's so much you miss if you're not actually there in the room. So,
Well, and you
yeah.
would think that they would want to see their crowning achievement.
Yeah,
They worked so hard for this point,
that's true.
so
Well, it must not have resulted the way they might have thought.
well, no, because I think, and you could tell from the reporting that and it switched probably Sunday,
Yeah,
Saturday, Sunday. Weird, they kind of started reporting facts
yeah,
because they realized that nothing else was going to work.
right, right.
Um,
So is there still a criminal investigation going
I
on?
guess I
Oh,
don't
really?
know how that works. And here's
Huh.
another thing about the legislature.
Yeah.
Sherry mentioned that the legislature polices its own.
Yeah, we do.
That's true. So when the legislature is in session, the Speaker of the House and the Senate President have jurisdiction over that body.
Right. That's right.
So much so that if Sherry is late for a meeting and she's doing 100 miles an hour down the
Yep.
interstate, they cannot arrest her.
It's provided for in the Constitution,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Now they can follow you to the Capitol and
Yeah.
deal with you there.
Actually, I got pulled over one time
Oh, you did?
when we were at the Jonah Bank, and I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm late for a meeting," and and he was really nice. I didn't even bring out the Constitution because I think they know. They see our little
Badge.
emblems on our car, and I think they look us up, and they must have a little thing that they're a legislator. But
Yeah,
yeah.
do not touch.
Well, no, it's just they're crazy. Watch out. I don't know, but
Oh, this session for sure.
yeah, yeah. So, but it's really interesting to me that just the correlation of what you're dealing with in the House and then what's just come up in the Senate. It's so odd to me that how it's been handled.
Well, this year has been very different than any of the other sessions I've been at. Not because of the drama. There's always drama.
Yeah,
It's for me. It's how things have been handled,
yeah.
and just hearing the stories that have come out of the Senate. A lot of them have just blown my mind.
Yeah, like which one?
So the one that really got me was last night.
Yeah,
That you took a recess at like 2,
yeah.
and then it was at like 4, and
Yeah.
just watching it on YouTube because I'm
And we took a long lunch too. We got, I think it was 11:30, quarter to 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm getting at is I was in the House waiting for the Convention of States bill to come
Oh,
up,
yeah.
which we killed last night.
Yeah.
Sorry
That's
about your
good.
luck, Ogden.
By the way, how much does Ogden post on Facebook?
All the time.
And not a word.
Okay, this is my show, and I got to tell you about this.
Okay.
So, Augie, old Ogden, he had a post, and Ogden Driscoll, he's in
And
Senate
I like
District.
Ogden as a human. I'm
Well, I mean, sometimes he's nice to me. So anyway, he has this post, and I just cannot resist replying to it.
oh dear.
And so I did. And then he went after me like crazy. Like,
Yeah.
who is your business partner? I want to know all of your
Yeah,
financial dealings. And what really got him going, I think, is when I said no. By the way, why is a sitting senator going after a private businessman?
Oh, wow.
And then he continued.
Yeah.
And I must have responded something to the effect of, you should probably be careful of that glass house you live in, because I have some things that, maybe you're interested in transparency, Ogden. So why don't we do some transparency about a black bra?
Oh dear.
Oh dear. And now I won't go any further except to say, use your imagination, and you're probably right about what I have.
Oh, wow.
But anyway,
We might
it's
have to talk about this later.
well, all I'll say is you can't unsee it.
Oh, no.
But anyway,
Maybe not.
yeah, maybe not.
Or
Well,
maybe we'll just, yeah.
yeah. So Sherry, I appreciate you taking the time
Yeah.
to visit
Well,
with me
thanks for
tonight.
the opportunity. I appreciate it. And I heard the Senate president had a press conference about let senators,
About Pizzagate?
yeah, Pizzagate, about senators spreading mistruths or
Yeah, are
something
you
to them.
spreading fake news?
No, I don't think I am. I think that a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Well, to the media, sometimes it's worth a lot more than that.
Yeah, so I think that I'm thankful that you are actually covering things, and I'm thankful you found out we have a lobbyist in our chamber because I don't think any of us knew that.
He
So,
most definitely is.
yeah, and so I'm not sure where we go from there, but we're gonna have to talk about that.
I think that needs to be point of order, Mr. President.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, while you're at it, you can get rid of your other Senate aide too. All right.
Well,
All right, Sherry. Thank you for taking the
thank you
time.
very much.
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Well, all of our information is online. Our email and phone numbers are there, and that's my cell number. And I don't usually give it out over the air, but
Well,
you're welcome to.
you can get her email and contact
Yeah,
information from the
from
website.
the website, it's my cell number. I answer it. We don't have any staff. We do it ourselves, and well, some people do.
Well, some
Have some
people have
stuff.
staff.
Some
Other
people
people
have
have
some.
lobbyists.
I have to tell you, this is the first time in Senate history, though, that anybody has ever had staff.
Yes.
Nobody does that. And just to say, I mean, I just have to say it. So last year they were doing fundraisers from inviting lobbyists
Yes.
to raise money for their staff to do their work for them. And then now we're saying it's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black because talk about influencing you if they're giving you money for your staff. I mean, that's a little bit more than,
It's a little bit
it's
more than a check on the
it's a
floor.
little bit more. So I just feel like there's a bit of an inequality in how things are being handled and in who benefits from what, and just it's just let's all have the courage to look in the mirror and determine, are we our best selves? Are we being honest and truthful? Are we carrying out the work of the people in a way that brings honor to the office that is theirs, not ours? It is their office.
Good
And
point.
so,
And I think I would add that, if you've ever wondered what it's like to be a reporter, most of the good journalism does not come from the New York Times or the Cow Pie or the Casper Star Tribune or any of those news organizations. The best journalism is done by people who just get fed up.
yeah.
And so, if there's, if you're watching something and it doesn't look right to you, take a picture of it.
Yeah. Well, and what about, I mean, this is the other, What about Dan Zwanitzer redistricting himself into, you know,
Why the
there,
little box, Dan?
what about Steve Harshman calling Chuck names on Zoom? What about all of these things? And yet we've got rules for thee and not for
What
me.
about Clark Stith in the Speaker Pro Tem's
Yeah.
office with Rebecca Fitzgerald and
Yeah.
Joanne True?
Yeah. I mean, it's like how quickly we forget
When it's convenient for us.
when it's convenient. And none of those things were blown to the proportion that, I mean, can you imagine the Senate president had a press conference over a picture of him in his office
I'm
tonight?
going to make so much fun of him.
I don't know if that actually happened, but we heard someone had an alert on their phone that he was having a press conference about Pizzagate.
If
And
that happened, I am
I'm
going to
just,
ridicule
I'm not
him
saying,
mercilessly.
I'm just wondering how you weigh these things as, I've been fortunate to serve under several presidents like Dan Dockstetter and
You know what? I don't agree with him. Not to interrupt you,
yeah, no.
but when that Zwanitzer thing was going on, I sent him a copy of my complaint.
Yeah.
Mostly because I don't trust Matt Obricht and the
Yeah.
LSO for
Uh-huh.
obvious reasons. That's another article you should read on the Open Range Record. But anyway, I sent a copy of it to Dan Dockstetter, and he actually replied. And
He's a very honorable
yeah,
man, very honorable man. And we don't, that's the thing, we don't always have to agree, but the office of the president of the Senate is to give everyone a fair hearing and to serve at the will of the body. And that's why, many of those bills that died had co-sponsors in the Senate or were committee
hmm
bills. They didn't get a fair hearing. Now, yes, the majority floor leader is the one in charge of that schedule, but the president of the Senate has a lot of power as
yeah,
well. So, these things fall squarely in the lap of leadership when they happen.
yeah, they do. I mean, the poop rolls downhill,
Yeah.
or pizza.
The pizza rolls downhill. That's a great place to end.
It is. Well, thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
me. Thank you for taking the time to watch the program. I'm going to try to have another show tomorrow, but of course, the session's winding down, and
Thank God.
yeah, thank God. So have a good evening. Pay attention to what's on the Open Range Record. I've published a couple of really important stories, and